In its simplest terms, how I would think about it is the angle that you have between your left shoulder, your hip, and your knee. If that angle gets more narrow in transition, the odds of you compressing the ball go up dramatically. If that same angle gets wider in transition, the odds of you compressing the ball go down dramatically. Now, why is that? Well, the key is how far my left shoulder gets away from the ground. Let me show you what I mean. We'd like to thank our partners at Diazyme, the makers of Perform, for sponsoring today's video. Do you want something to help you play better? Are you like the golfers who get tired and start to lose it towards the end of your round? Check out Perform that I've been using. I like to drink it before I train, but I also really love to take it out onto the golf course right before I go play. I've been using this for the past couple of months, absolutely love it. Basically for me, I feel like I'm on when I'm taking this. I feel more present, I feel aware of my senses, the things that I'm trying to do when I go play golf, to focus longer. It's really hard to stay focused and feel good for me for 4 to 5 hours when I go golf. So on top of good nutrition, I've been taking this before I go play, and I feel much better, much longer in my rounds. It was invented by renowned surgeon Dr. Mark Schneider to actually improve how athletes perform, and it's been tested on the pros and proven to increase endurance and strength in athletes of all levels. It's simple, it's convenient. Simply take the pouch, add water, shake it, drink, you're good to go. It has no stimulants, no caffeine, nothing that's going to make you jittery, so it's ideal for your golf game. This gives me exactly what I need to be on and feel good and present for 4 to 5 hours out onto the golf course. I absolutely love this. I know that you guys will as well. We'll go ahead and put the link down in the description down below for you to check out more. Hey guys, Eric here, back outside at the Bethlehem Golf Club. In today's video, we're going to talk about Tiger's key compression move that he does in transition that I'd like to show you, talk to you about, that you can put into your own game, how you can really start to flush those iron shots. Let's head over to Analyzer quick, show you what I'm talking about, then we'll come back, I'll show you how to implement it. So a couple of pieces we want to look at here for really the transition piece that we can learn from. The angle and the compression angle that I want to cue in on would be the angle you see here between the left shoulder, the hip, and the knee. Now the compression angle that we want to see is this angle getting more narrow in transition. You see that subtle movement there? Watch his left shoulder get below that line. And that little angle there, which decreases with his left shoulder going down, in combination with this belt buckle movement. So let's watch right here, and let's put a line through where we would, just assume his belt buckle's pointed, and then watch the movement from there in transition. So notice that belt buckle now points more down towards the ground. So there's two key compression moves here. His left shoulder has gone below the height where it was at the top, and the belt buckle has gone underneath or below where it was pointed from the top. Those two key moves are the compression move with the irons. Let's go ahead and talk a little more about it. Okay guys, so there we saw what that key move is, and really, if you look at Tiger's swing or you look at all the professional swings, that's a part of the swing and a movement in transition specifically that really controls whether or not a golfer is going to compress the ball. In its simplest terms, how I would think about it is the angle that you have between your left shoulder, your hip, and your knee. If that angle gets more narrow in transition, the odds of you compressing the ball go up dramatically. If that same angle gets wider in transition, the odds of you compressing the ball go down dramatically. Now, why is that? Well, the key is how far my left shoulder gets away from the ground. Let me show you what I mean. If this angle here, let's say my left shoulder is a certain distance from the ball and we drew a line on it, in transition, if my left shoulder gets farther from the ground or too early, what does that mean I have to do just to get to the golf ball? I have to release all my angles. That means high dynamic loft, no shaft lean. I'm essentially turning my 7-iron into an 8-iron. Now conversely, if my left shoulder stays lower and actually moves down and forward a little bit, and I've decreased the distance between my shoulder and the ground, now what do I have to do? I have to shorten these other levers to get to the ball. I don't lengthen them, I shorten them. And what does shortening them look like? Shaft lean. Here's me with my levers as far as possible from the down the line angle. Here's me shortening them. See how as I have more shaft lean from the face on camera, simultaneously from the down the line angle, the club head's closer to me. Well, if the club head's closer to me, my body's got to be where? Closer to the ground. That's where your compression comes from. Compression, hitting the ball solid, the ball flying off the face, right? All that ball speed comes from having shaft lean with speed, right? Hitting the ball in the center of the face, but shaft lean, de-lofting it, taking the loft off, and that all starts with these body motions. So we go up to the top, and there's a couple ways and sensations to feel this part before we talk about the belt buckle part. Essentially from here, part number one would be having a sensation that your left shoulder gets closer to your left hip or left knee in early transition. Now notice when I'm doing that motion and I'm feeling like my left shoulder is getting closer, so I'm like increasing my left side bend in transition, doing a little bit of an oblique crunch. I'm not having my club come way over the top. My head's not going dramatically forward with it, right? I'm still having my club neutral from there. It's just a subtle motion in early transition. That left shoulder to me feels like it's getting closer to my left hip and my left knee. And that puts me in a position where my left shoulder's lower again, where I'm able to get the handle more forward. So let's start with that as feel number one, is just in your mind, imagine that angle you have at the top, you're decreasing. Let's go ahead and hit one from there. And that would be feel and part number one for compression. Let me bring in a little cue here to show you a good visual image that'll help. All right guys, so here we can see, I just brought a little object in. We're gonna use this from down the line. You can see in one of the pictures here where I put a line on Tiger's shoulder and where he is at the top. So let's just say this noodle's roughly the same as my shoulder. It might be a little bit higher, but if I had a visual in front of me like a wall like this, I wanna feel like my shoulder actually dips underneath that wall in transition. Whereas if this was like a water, right? Like I was above water with my shoulder to start, I want my left shoulder to dip underwater as I start down. So my left shoulder is getting a little bit farther from my left chin. My left shoulder is getting a little bit closer to my left hip. I like to have a little wall visual here when I'm working with players on this, just for them to get a sense of where their lead shoulders. It should be about even with the shoulder at the top. It's okay if it's a little above or below for reference, but underneath it to start with. So I'm getting lower, closer to the ground, decreasing that angle to start down. And now as I come through, as I mentioned, as I'm feeling like that angle is getting more narrow and I'm compressing that a little bit, my body's getting a little closer to the ground. If you're used to your arms and hands throwing too early, right from the face on camera, you're likely gonna need to feel like your trail arm and trail wrist are a little more bent. That's the piece from down the line that shortens that lever, right? So very, very likely when you feel your left side going down a little bit of rib cage rotation, your right arm and right wrist will likely feel a little bit more bent, a little bit longer. So left shoulder up to the top, that angle decreases, the left shoulder goes underneath the wall to start down. Let's go ahead and do that again. Yeah, that's about as pure as I can strike it. So that's the lead shoulder motion, right? Making that angle decrease a little bit. Let's talk about the belt buckle motion. Okay, so the last piece here, and this one's I think pretty self-explanatory, is the belt buckle action. We can see in the Tiger model where his belt buckle points at the top, and in transition as he makes that angle more narrow, right, that's his key compression move, his belt buckle doesn't point more up towards the sky. If my belt buckle, you imagine a laser through it, pointed more up towards the sky in transition, what would happen to that angle? Very wide here. If I want to narrow that angle, I also want to feel my belt buckle points a little bit more down and forward. At the top, if my belt buckle points out behind the ball, I want to feel like it traces a line towards the golf ball and then even left of the ball into the follow through, but it's working closer to my left foot, more down towards the ground. You see how that wants to help me have my upper body more down and turned. That's the piece again that I need for the compression, handle forward, lower dynamic loft, more speed. So as I feel like my left shoulder's going under the wall, I also feel like my belt buckle's pointing closer to my toes or more down towards the ground. So it's left shoulder down, belt buckle down. Those are really the first two movements that I want to have from the top if I want to decrease that angle and get that compression. Now, the amount you need to feel this depends on the amount you normally do it, right? If you're someone like Tiger who does those moves fairly naturally, you don't need to think about it at all. If you might be a little bit of a higher handicap player who goes wider and throws, you're likely going to need to feel like you do it probably 10 times more than you think. Right, so this would be where I would record it from face on, look at it and exaggerate, but it's left shoulder down, closer to my left hip or left knee, and belt buckle down. Left shoulder down, belt buckle down. Left shoulder down, belt buckle down. Those being the two moves that we would start from the top. So guys, that would be the compression move that I see from Tiger that I would want to put into the iron play. Is it the same for the driver? It's a lot of same for driver, but I would be really doing this with the iron game. If you guys enjoyed this video, we're going to put another card on the screen. If you want to check out cogornogolf.com, send your swings in. I would love to work with you. We'll go ahead and put that on the screen as well.